And we are live with episode, I want to say 8. Is it 8, Sean?
I don't know.
I think it's 8. I'm going to go with 8, and if it's wrong, I'm wrong. We are here live. It is episode 8 with the Los Angeles Lambs team preview for you guys. And this is a much awaited one. James is one of the critics of our podcast and what we have to say in the Discord. So we like to offer up our thoughts about this team. It's a team that finished 8th place last year, Sean. A little bit of a disappointing season for the Lambs, who arguably gave, they sold the farm for a farm animal, for the CD Lamb. And it's a
he really stayed on brand, though. I was going to say, he really stayed on brand, taking CD Lamb.
And it was almost a necessary move based on, the mascot. I feel like at some point you just have to sell out to make sure you get your guy. Like if there was a Raider out there or a blowout back in the day, somebody, blew out a tire on their way to the game, I probably would have tried to find a way to get that guy. ACL blowout, not so much, but tire, we'll talk. Nowadays with the Raiders, there's not much opportunity for that. But basically, we're just going to go over that. And then if you stick around a little bit later, we're going to do a special mock draft for the rookie draft. I had a friend that I met at the Senior Bowl a couple years ago. He helped me out. And I just gave him the team or all the teams in the draft order. And then he was like, hey, let's just do a first round and just tell me who you'd pick for each team. So it's just kind of an unbiased look on what may end up happening this year in our first round, because this is going to be a hell of a first round this year. We got a lot of teams that have multiple picks, and then we have a lot of high profile names out there that are going to go to teams. And I think this year there's going to be a lot of shakeups as far as the standings based on what happens in the draft, because I think there's some quality top end talent. So
a lot of different positions too.
Yes, yeah, and I think there's going to be like 8 really quality players for sure, like that come out of the top half of this draft. So that'll be fun to look at. So let's get started with James's quarterbacks. So he's got a good one right at the start. I mean, nobody liked him, including myself, heading into last offseason. I was really not a Justin Herbert fan, and I'm pretty wrong. So there's that.
Wrong.
Yeah, I just, I didn't really believe in the Oregon offense translating to the NFL. I just feel like it's one of those spots where, like, those guys just usually have to do a one read type of, spread type of deal. And he reminded me a ton of Blaine Gabbert, to be honest. There was just all those tools and all the athleticism and just not really any of the crazy production. And that's what I was like, I don't know about this guy. So I stayed away, and it was the wrong decision. So
Sir, Blaine Gabbert has a Super Bowl ring.
He does. He really, hey, I'm okay with that, because I mean, he played a vital role in getting Tom Brady water and helping him out on the sidelines. So I was okay with that. But I mean, Herbert's looking like a really quality dynasty asset, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He was Mr. Irrelevant in our draft, actually. I think he was the last pick of the
410?
410.
Wow.
410.
Yeah, I fucked up.
That's one of the saving graces on his team right now, if you look at his quarterbacks.
It kind of is at this point, because I think heading into last offseason, James had Matt Ryan, Jared Goff, Derek Carr, I think. None of those guys really inspired me as far as a long-term answer. There's some solid guys, but not really like a real asset. And now Herbert, I mean, you could argue him in the top 5 quarterbacks for like a super flex startup, I would argue. I mean, he's as good as you can really ask for from a young quarterback, especially in his first year. So, yeah. I mean, very good starter. Very good. And we got David Carr. And the Raiders don't really have an offensive line. So I think we talked about this on another podcast.
Was it a Freudian slip putting David Carr on there?
That's honestly... that is completely my fault, and it's been a long day at work. So David Carr, we're just gonna roll with David Carr. It's not Derek. Fuck Derek. David Carr
is that
also got sacked a shit ton.
Wow, that's gonna happen to Derek this year.
So you know what? He's gonna revert to David Carr play style, running around, scrambling, dying. No, that should definitely be Derek. I'm gonna leave it there for the record.
Oh, that's great. I mean, the way things are going in Houston, they might need to bring David Carr back. So,
dude, David, hey, he's one of the better analysts on NFL Network. And I just like Derek Carr. I just don't feel that good about. I mean, he's like average.
It's so meh, right? Yeah, right in the middle.
He's just the most. I feel like honestly, he's QB 16. Like he's just like literally in the middle of the league.
He's always whatever his like receiver and running backs are, right? Like whatever the talent level is there, like he's just like right there.
Yeah, he's. I mean, he's the most average starting quarterback as of right now. Like, and I wonder if it's really his fault or if it's just a combination of him and Gruden, because Gruden's always been known to be kind of like weird with quarterbacks, and the system never really calls for a ton of downfield passes. It's usually a lot of like mid-tier type stuff. So I don't know, like if he's being held back or he's got like the arm talent for sure. He's got a rocket, but it's just a matter of like, can he put it all together, and will the offense even let him put it together? So I mean, as of right now, he's a quality backup quarterback. You could throw him in. He's fine in Dynasty, but I don't think he's ever gonna hit top 10 status. I mean, he's just gonna be like a 10 through 20 kind of guy, a QB2, if you will.
I mean, him and Goff are. I mean, they're probably both going to be throwing a lot this year. I don't think either of those teams are going to be very good. So
there's positivity there. I mean, Goff too, like you said. I mean, bad team, a lot of throwing. Goff, I'm a little more worried about because I just worry about his weapons. I just don't see them as of right now. I mean, I assume things will change in the draft, but it's going to be a lot of. I think there's going to be a shit ton of Swift catches next year. A lot of DeAndre, a lot of Jamal Williams when he gets spelled. I have a hard time, and especially now, I guess they're kind of implementing that Saints type offense, which is going to call for a lot of that stuff too. So, I mean, Hawkinson's nice safety valve, but Goff has never really been like a good starting dynasty asset. I mean, nothing's really changing. I mean,
I feel like we both probably think it was just all McVay, right?
Yeah.
From McVay? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like it's gonna be interesting to see how he plays this year, because if he's as good or better, then it's not McVay. But I'm excited to see what Stafford's gonna do with McVay, because we already know Stafford's pretty good. So
yeah,
that's gonna be fun. But Goff, I mean, he's kind of in that same Derek Carr boat. I almost said David to correct myself, but that would have been the wrong correction. Jared Goff is kind of just like right in the middle there, like 15, 16. Fine. Honestly, if you got to get excited about anybody other than Herbert, you're really excited about Taysom Hill. I mean, if he's the starter and they build the offense around him, looks good.
Yeah.
A lot of rushing.
I was going to say, even if he's, I mean, would you, if Taysom Hill was getting like on-field time consistently, just like he was last year, even if it's not like quarterback position, would you start him over David Carr or Jared Goff 1 week?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if he's like playing, if he's getting the reps, I think he's the QB2 probably, because of rushing. I mean, if he scrambles around for like 60 yards, he probably outpaces Derek Carr some weeks. Like I feel like Carr is the kind of guy that's gonna like have a hard matchup and then dump you for like 11 points, and then you're like, God damn it, like I got no chance. But whereas like Hill, I feel like his floor on some weeks, if he's getting high amounts of carries and throwing the ball maybe 30 times a game, he's going to get 11 points. So it's interesting.
I just see Sean Payton using him just heavily in the red zone to keep away from Jameis making stupid plays.
I just like, is this really going to be a 2 quarterback team? Like, is it really? I think it's a possibility. I could see McVay saying, fuck it, let's just do it.
If it's ever going to happen, this would be it.
A Jameis, like who would have thought like 2 years ago that Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston would be a 2-headed quarterback duo for the Saints of all teams? I would have never believed you. So this is an interesting group. I mean, what would you give it grade wise?
B minus.
I feel like Herbert's got a lot of upside. I feel like I want to give it an A because I mean Herbert is, to me, is one of the top dynasty quarterbacks. Like he's a guy I'd want. Hill has upside. If Hill really shows out and like somehow lives up to that fake contract that he got, like he could be really good. Like I just don't know. I mean, I would venture to say probably not because he seems like a gimmick, but I've been wrong before. And then two other good, solid backup quarterbacks that are relatively young. I mean, I'll give it an A because there's upside and there's safety.
That's fair.
A personal opinion, that's all. So we'll say A and B minus. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
All right, that's fair. A net B. So let's go to the running backs, and this is where things get interesting on this team because James really the cupboard seems a little bit bare after Christian. Do you agree there?
I think there's more spoiled food in the cupboard than it is empty.
I mean, you have Cristiano right at the top, and everybody loves Cristiano. But if he goes down again, which is a similar situation that we had last year, I mean, I don't even know who I'm starting. I mean, I guess you have to start Michelle and pray for, he gets his carries. And Dylan, you're kind of hoping it's going to be a similar situation to like he's a handcuff right now to me. Like he's a handcuff for Aaron Jones. So those are probably the two guys I'd want to like lean back on, I guess, if Christian were to go down. But I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
I'm a little more upside on AJ Dillon. They did use a second round pick on him, didn't they? It was the second round pick.
Yeah, right? it was a second, which
I mean,
this makes no sense, but whatever.
Aaron Jones is going to absorb like all of the passing game now, which is great. But
Dylan is not a pass catcher at all.
I think he's going to get a good amount of carries though this year.
They'll probably try to. I mean, especially when you sign a running back for that kind of deal. Like, yes, you want to work him, but you also don't want to like kill him because you have an investment in him for like 4 years. Was it 4 years? Something like that. Okay. I mean, they probably could get out after 3, but you don't want to like kill unless he's Derrick Henry. You don't want to kill him. Like, it's just that simple. So, I think Dylan will get touches, especially. I think he'll get a lot of red zone touches too. It could be like a Lendale White situation. You never know. That team's gonna score a lot of touchdowns anyway, so maybe he'll be a good vulture back. You never know.
That's right. He's got the host of Jeopardy at quarterback. He's great.
Dude, he's been doing a good job too, by the way. Yeah, Aaron Rodgers. He's just like on TV. He's like so even on like Pat McAfee and other stuff. He's just so like I don't know. He's like quiet and like nerdy in a way. Like he's perfect for the show. He's like literally designed for it. It's not what I expected Aaron Rodgers to be off the field. We'll put it that way.
Yeah.
So anyway, getting off that talk, so what do we think about Marlon Mack? Because he was a big
Achilles bud.
He was a giant talking point during last offseason. First week, I think it's an Achilles, right? Is that what we said?
He tore his Achilles.
Achilles, it's not a good injury. It's especially for a running back.
What you want from the running back position?
I don't like that. Taylor obviously is going to get the bulk of the carries no matter what. He's got to compete with Hines. I don't see a ton of upside for Mack unless an injury happens. I mean, who knows if he's even really fully healthy. So
I'm trying to like look at all these running backs and see who wasn't hurt last year on his team.
Even his last running back on this list, Darrington Evans, was hurt literally the entire year.
It's just...
And I like Darrington Evans. He's got a phenomenal name, and he's actually pretty solid as a player. But literally, he played like 2 games last year. So that
Derrick Henry's on that team. So.
Yeah, I mean, he's literally the handcuff of all handcuffs. I mean, Malcolm Brown signed with the Dolphins, I think. I mean, I think he did, but I mean, if that's the case, I don't feel great about that either. I mean, that team's probably going to add a running back in the draft and already have 2 other guys ahead of him, probably just a camp body. Jerick McKinnon is unsigned from what I understand, and so is Duke Johnson. So neither of those guys right now have any value.
Kalen Ballage is on the Steelers.
That's an interesting one, at least. I mean
draft a running back is, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to draft a running back, but like Ballage, I mean, he could be the de facto like opening day starter. Like if they don't take one early, like if they miss out on Williams, because they don't have a first this year, I don't think. They're going to...
Can't believe that they're like, all right, we're going to go with Benny Snell and Kalen Ballage, everybody. Steelers Nation.
That's what they're showing their fans right now. That is exactly what they're showing their fans. Yeah. And like I saw Connor got, I think he did a workout with the Cardinals today, so he's not coming back. There's no way Connor's coming back.
Good fit.
I
Actually,
know that could work out decently. Um, but basically, you're looking at a lot of guys that are kind of just hoping for their situations to improve, and there's nobody right now that has a good situation outside of McCaffrey, in my opinion. I don't see anybody else. Maybe Dylan. Dylan arguably is RB2 right now. Would you agree with that?
yeah. There's only one running back on his roster that's the best running back on their team.
Yeah, I mean, like Michelle, Damian Harris is there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a good situation here. I mean, this is a year that James probably wishes he had a first, but he traded it away, and then he's got 2.3. So his best chance to add a running back is in the second round. And generally speaking, there's not a bona fide starter kind of around during that point of the draft. So maybe it's a trade up, maybe it's a draft day trade. Something could happen, but right now I got to give this running back room at best a C based on just total depth. I mean, I think C plus maybe for McCaffrey because he's the best. I mean, right now, but I just don't love anybody else on this team.
I'm gonna give it a D.
A D. Wow. Interesting. I mean, it's just like one of those situations where I don't see an RB2, like a guy that I can rely on right now as a second starter. Because it's every week you need an RB for sure. So like you got to get one of these guys out there, and it's going to be a rotating situation. This is as a big of a rotation as we have in our league, arguably. So maybe it's not that far off to call it a D. Maybe I'm just overreacting.
It's one thing when we talk about like tight ends, if you've got like top flight talent, like if you got one of the top 2-3 guys, and I give it like an A in the previous episode, but like to win in this league, you need depth at running back. So
I feel like you need depth at pretty much every position out. I mean, the two big ones are running back, receiver. You just got to have good depth at each spot. But running back, I feel like it's even more important sometimes because, like for example, last year I had a couple injuries, I had a couple bye weeks, couple things happen, and then I'm starting like Carlos Hyde as a backup. I think he was a third stringer at the time for the Seahawks, and I was just like praying for like 9 carries and a touchdown because I just had no other options. There's just nobody else that plays. Like Kerryon Johnson, I started in 1 week, I think, too, just hoping for like maybe 25 yards, and like I'd be happy with 2 points. Like I don't want to be in those situations, and I wonder this team might be in that situation if the injuries pile up and there's bye weeks, and I mean I could see that happening here too.
He's in that situation week 1.
Yeah, I mean, go back to last year for James's team. He loses McCaffrey, and he finished 8th. I mean, that's kind of what we're looking at if we lose McCaffrey again. It's not that far off to say it's going to happen again.
He'll be plugging it out with Alex if he loses McCaffrey this year.
Yeah, it's true. Very true. And
that's the last place he wants to be.
Here's a great question for you that I don't know the answer to, and I wonder if you know the answer. Who is McCaffrey's backup right now? I really don't know the answer. I'm going to look it up, though.
Bonifon?
Who?
Bonifon?
Reggie Bonifon. Oh, God. He used to play quarterback. Dude, I got to look this up. Hold on. Hold the phone, everybody watching. That's 0 people right now, but hold the damn phone because I want to see. Here it is. Let's see. Panthers. The backup right now is Reggie Bonifon and Trenton Cannon. Sean, you're smart. You're a smart guy because I didn't know.
I love the name so much. It's the only reason I remember it.
That's unreal.
So they'll probably pick like a day 3 running back.
I was gonna say that's looking like a draft pick for sure because I mean last year I think they signed Davis late in the process because they had a similar situation last year.
They're all queued up to take like offensive threats this season. They took all defensive players last year in their draft. I think they took like 8 defensive players.
Yeah, and their defense still sucked. So it's like I don't know. They could do it again. Like
I mean, they need to take an offensive tackle.
They need a lot, and I was kind of just looking at their roster here. Like, say that again.
What pick are they? Like 8, 10?
They're at 7, I think.
7?
I think they picked 7.
I would love that for a Kyle Pitts landing.
Well, people have talked about Kyle Pitts there. Yeah. I mean, I could see it. I mean, I don't think Kyle Pitts is going to be there. I've talked about this a bunch of times. I think he's going to end up in the top 5, just no matter what. But
in the NFL draft,
yeah, I think I bet Bryce $5 that it was going. Kyle Pitts would for sure be a top 5 pick in the real NFL draft.
Okay, so the top 3 are all quarterbacks.
I think the top 4 could potentially all be quarterbacks, but I know I don't know, but in my heart, I believe
the Bengals are that stupid.
Yes.
Take an offensive tackle after they lost their QB because he destroyed all last year.
Yes.
That
okay. Let's just hear me out here.
I love the idea of Kyle Pitts and Joe Burrow, though. Like, I love that.
I think they're going to take an offensive weapon because the Bengals are at 5, right? It's Atlanta at 4, Cincinnati 5. Atlanta could take Kyle Pitts straight up.
That's true. That's a very Arthur Blank move.
I think it's an Arthur Blank move. That offense, I mean, it's Arthur Smith offense now. I could totally see them taking him. Julio's kind of like on his last legs.
Oh my God. Yeah, but one more good year of Julio and Calvin Ridley.
That team could win just based on points alone if they can just get their shit together offensively. I mean, if they find a running back, like that's going to be a stacked offense.
They have Mike Davis, sir.
I like Mike Davis. I think he's fine. I've always thought he's fine. He might actually be a decent starter this year, honestly. Like, if he gets the job, like, I'm not that upset. It kind of reminds me of Michael Turner.
If you have those 3 running routes, why would you put anybody in the box?
Dude, honestly, if you had Kyle Pitts, Julio Jones, and Calvin Ridley coming at you, like, I'm fucking scared. I'm scared talking about it. Because, like, there's no bigger supporter out here than Kyle Pitts than me. So, I think...
I'm kind of on the wagon of him going to either Carolina or Miami.
I think there's literally zero chance he makes out of the top 7 for sure. Like I will bet everything on that.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's going to be some team that just falls in love with him because I truly believe he's the second best player in the draft. So I wonder if there's just some team like the Cowboys or some team that just wants to pop up into like the top 5 to take him. Like I could just see it happening because I fell in love with the guy. I would not be surprised if somebody else was like, holy shit, we got to have this guy. And they just trade up. Like, it's not out of the realm of possibility. And then not only that, the Falcons just could take him themselves. They could just do it. And then the Bengals could be stupid and do it. So there's like those 2 right there are totally in the realm of possibility. So, and the Bengals were stupid as shit 2 or 3 years ago when they took John Ross at 9 overall. Like they're dumb. They could do dumb things.
Well, that means they won't take the best player then, right?
The thing is, he is the best player.
That's the wrong situation.
It doesn't matter, though. Well, that's another thing, too, that Vince can stand on the table for this, is when we were back in the day watching film in my dorm room, we were always talking about, like, oh, man, the Bengals always seem to just draft everybody that we like, the good values in the draft. Like, they just find ways to take the best players available. So if that's the case, they are in Kyle Pitts' contention for sure. Because they've been doing it every year. This is going back to like the Geno Atkins days. Like this is a long time ago. But
do you honestly believe that like you have T. Higgins going into year 2, Tyler Boyd and Joe Mixon as like offensive weapons? Do they really think that that's their biggest area of need?
It's totally not their biggest area of need at all. And they invested a 2nd round pick in shitty Drew Sample. So like it's totally not their biggest need. So if they're picking on need, it's not happening. But that's just kind of what my heart is saying he's going to end up at one of those 2 teams. And then honestly, I wouldn't be super shocked if Chase went to the Bengals either. I mean, I know we're getting a little off topic here with the James team review, but like Chase to the Bengals is...
I think this team isn't very exciting anyway, so we can talk about this.
I mean, Joe Burrow gets his, stud wide receiver from LSU and then pair him up with T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd. That's looking pretty nasty. So, I mean, I could see that too. I just feel like the Bengals are far enough away from like really contending that maybe they just don't give a shit about need this year. And their offensive line is a deep class this year. They could get a starter in round 2. So it's not out of the realm of possibility. Anywho, all the draft talk aside, we're moving on. We're going to the receivers. So we got Mike Evans.
There's some life.
What's that?
I said there's some life. We found it.
I know. My eyes kind of lit up a little bit here. Mike Evans, obviously, pretty good year in, year out, man. He's a stud. I mean, we don't have to really talk about him. We know he's going to be good. Yeah. CeeDee Lamb, I put him as I kind of listed him on here as the 2nd receiver because dynasty wise, he's probably the 2nd, or he's actually the most valuable.
Maybe one. Yeah, I was gonna say.
I would take CeeDee over Mike Evans. if we were starting up right now. But CD looking like, I mean, last year was the slot receiver, and he was a damn good one. Even when Dak went down, he was still making plays. I mean, he was a rookie. He's a young rookie. Not only that, I would have a hard time believing he doesn't at least do what he did last year, with at least a step up. I mean, from last year. I mean, Gallup, he'll probably take more reps from Gallup as he gets more comfortable in the NFL game. So I'm feeling good about CD.
The only thing to worry about for him until he's like more clear, like as far as like the wide receivers on that team go, he pretty much played almost like exclusively in the slot, didn't he, last year?
I mean, yeah, he was a slot receiver. I mean, I watched a bunch of Cowboys games, and every time I'd noticed him, he was always in the slot.
You worried that puts like a cap on his like productivity?
I don't know, because, well, another thing too is Jarwin went down last year. So Jarwin, I mean, in the previous year had been a lot in the slot, but it's a Mike McCarthy offense. And I mean, speak of that however you want, but I mean, he could be there like Randall Cobb kind of guy. Like he's kind of just that slot guy that's versatile, get him the ball. Maybe that does hurt his value. Maybe he's not that Greg Jennings type of guy that a lot of people maybe think he is, like that kind of outside guy.
Like high like touchdown upside coming from there then.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's gonna be a better, like at least early in his career, maybe a better PPR kind of guy. But as time goes on, he might develop more into like the red zone threat that I think he is. I mean,
yeah, I'm pretty sure they can get out of both of their other receivers right after this year if they wanted to.
I know Gallup's a free agent after this year.
I think Amari Cooper is like voidable after this year,
which I consistently feel like he's one of the most overrated players in the league. But
yeah,
I mean, even if they move on from one of them, he's gonna get a huge uptick. So I mean, it's hard to not like his outlook. Tyler Lockett got extended recently. I think like in the last couple of weeks. It was a bigger money than I thought he was going to get too. But he's been solid. I mean, he's just a complete. I think he's like if you had to start a best ball league, like this is the guy I want. Like he's just.
Oh yeah. I've had him in the regular league the last 2 years.
I've never owned him in the regular league, so I don't know what he's like. Maybe you could speak to how it feels.
He's an ideal like flex or wide receiver 3 for our leagues because he'll win you a week. Like I think he had like a 40-point game last year.
And just pops up and just. Yeah, he had a huge. I do remember that week. He had a monster week this year that I was super memorable. I was like, man, I should have picked him up. And then he did like nothing the next couple of weeks. I was like, yeah, made the right call. And then he did it again. It's like it's the same thing every year from him.
Yeah, you can't not start him. You just got to be very comfortable knowing he could score you 0 points in a week.
Yeah, he's a guy you want to pair with a guy like Robert Woods, where you just know he's going to get his 8 points and just feel good about that.
You usually bringing up Robert Woods in every podcast.
Bobby Trees, butter. Bobby Trees. Yeah, we'll move. So I actually, speaking of Bobby Trees, his former teammate, Brandon Cooks. Where's Cooks nowadays? I don't even know. He's on every team, it seems like.
Houston.
Jesus Christ. I'm so behind.
They traded Hopkins and they brought in Cooks. Although he had pretty good last year.
Both of those were Eric Delrado Dynasty picks at one point. Brandon Cooks, I mean, like, he's a good receiver. He's good.
He was solid last year.
He's always solid. He's literally I think he's a guy I still don't really like, but he's always underrated. Like every single year he puts up at least 800 yards, it seems like. I mean, let's see what his finishes look like here. 2015 he was 12. 2016 he was 8. 2017 he was 7. 2018 14. Last year 2019 with the Rams he was hurt and trash, 61. And then 2020 last year he was number 15 standard league. So like
consistent.
Literally a top 15 receiver 5 of the 7 years he's been in the league. It's kind of hard to argue. It just doesn't feel like it though. It's really weird.
It's such a weird like the guy that gets traded around you just don't feel good about, right?
It's crazy. And here's another crazy stat for you. He's only 1 year older than Kenny Golladay. That's weird because I feel like Cooks has been in the league forever. It's wild. I think he's a 20-year-old enter, so that makes some sense. So yeah, and it looks like he restructured his deal based on what Sleepers got here. So I mean, he's going to be a good startable player for sure. I mean, he's at least a flex in this league. So Tyler Boyd, I mean, we're kind of talking about the Bengals. I mean, if the Bengals do add a weapon, that's going to really hurt Boyd.
Yeah, although I like Boyd. He just gets his work done every year. It seems like so.
Yeah, he's one of those guys you're just not excited about, but he makes it happen. I mean, he's very consistent. I mean, I got to look at. I kind of want to now. I'm just curious on some of these guys because Boyd is another guy I've never owned in regular, so I kind of want to look at his history.
He's like a top 30 receiver, I think, like every year.
His last 3 years, because I won't even count his first 2 years because he was hurt in one of them, and then he was a rookie in the other. So he was 17, 26, 38. Okay. So it's not like awful, but
I think he missed time this last year too.
Sean, also in this transaction history, you were involved in a trade.
I traded Tyler Boyd.
Yeah. It was here's the trade. Let's talk about this. It was Derek Carr, Tyler Boyd, and your third round pick that year for Andy Dalton, Devin Singletary, and a first round pick. Interesting.
Pretty well. Wait, what was the first round? What year? What pick?
It was 2020 first round pick and I guess it was your original pick,
which ended up getting traded, and I was able to get picks 1 and 2.
Okay, so I mean, I already liked your side of the deal, but now I like it more. I mean, the first rounder, honestly, for Carr, Boyd, and third that's a steal in itself, and then Singletary's like, meh. Dalton's trash, obviously, but he was a throw-in, it seems like. So a good trade for Sean in that deal.
I was riding high with Wentz and Lamar at the time, who were both like, great.
Yeah, at the time, we truly believed that they were the to the top 5, probably.
I don't need a third quarterback. Fuck it.
And they're gone. Dude, it's gosh, quarterbacks are weird because like you don't think you need them until you need them. It's like, god damn it.
Fucking weirdos.
It's gonna be weird whenever Tom leaves my squad because I don't know what the fuck's going on with Tua and Jalen Hurts right now. It's just gonna be a shit show. So I'm just praying. So anyway, let's keep moving down the list. Valdez Scantling, he's just so meh. He's just the most.
Pull the plug on that one.
Not a big believer there.
Long touchdown like each year. Everybody gets super hyped, and then it just crashes.
He's never finished above wide receiver 40, so not loving that. I feel like if they don't add a receiver, Sean, if they don't add a receiver in Green Bay, I don't know what they're doing. I just don't. I never will be able to understand it because it just doesn't make sense. Like, why not try to give your quarterback a chance to win the Super Bowl? I don't know.
They've got a perfect setup because there's a bunch of small speed receivers in this draft. Too.
There's a ton of them. There is a ton.
Such a perfect fit next to Devontae Adams.
I've seen a lot of like different mocks and stuff with them taking like one of those smaller receivers. And if any of those, that's going to be a high draft pick in our league. If anybody, like let's say,
they'll probably move up.
What about like a Rondale Moore, right?
Yeah.
Rondale Moore goes to the Packers. He's a first round pick in Dynasty for sure. Yep. Like, whether you like him or not, the situation is going to be great. So that'll be interesting.
He instantly jumps past like a bunch of like just receivers startup wise for me too. Like,
oh god, yeah, for sure. So Scantling's probably not a great value at this point. He's just kind of honestly, he might be kind of like a roster clogger kind of guy. Got to watch out for those.
Although, not a problem right now.
No,
the roster cloggers on this team are running backs 2 through 8.
Yeah, those are the guys like the Malcolm Browns of the world, where it's like, yes, they can be the starter, but like they're not going to be the starter. Come on, Sean, we both know it. I have a bunch of guys like that. My favorite one, we talked about it already, Traquan Smith. It's like, hey, he's going to be the starter on the Saints, but he's not really the starter. He sucks. Like, I already know that. It just hurts to like cut a guy like that with upside.
That being said, I think there's a better chance of him being useful with Jameis Winston than there was Drew Brees.
That actually might be a situation upgrade for him.
Yeah.
I will never forget there's one Traquan Smith game where he blew the fuck up like 2 years ago. He had like 2 touchdowns for I think he might have caught Breeze is like one of those record-setting.
That was the week that Breeze set. Was it the touchdown record or the yardage record? I think it was the touchdown.
It was one or the other, but I remember it was Traquan that caught it. Like I was like, okay, I see you.
Yeah.
But that was it. And I started him in DraftKings that week, and it paid off big. But anyway, so Emmanuel Sanders up in
Buffalo,
up in the buff, circling the wagons up there, doing some Pinto Ron tailgates.
I like that fit up there with him.
I think it's fine. I mean, he could take a John Brown type of role. I mean, it's not out of the question. I mean, that's a nice little landing spot for him. I mean, you can't expect a whole lot now from him anyway.
No, he'll be the third receiver on that team. You got obviously you got oh god, I'm blanking on names, Eric.
You got good. Gabriel Davis and Cole Beasley.
I did forget about Beasley. Beasley had a really good year last year.
Beasley was solid as fuck. He was really solid.
Yeah. It just depends on whether you think he's going to get playing time ahead of Gabriel Davis then.
Yeah, it's interesting because Brown and Davis, like, they were on the field at the same time. They actually ran a lot of 4 wide receiver sets last year. People kind of didn't realize that. But him and Davis are so different as receivers. I mean, Davis is kind of that big body, kind of like in a Galladay mold where he's kind of more of just a contested catch guy. So, I mean, I think everybody's going to have their role. It's just a matter of which guy is going to get the targets that week. So, you already know that Diggs is going to get his touches, but it's the other guys that are kind of just fighting. So, I mean, I don't mind this at all for Sanders. I mean, he's old as shit. I think he's like 34 or 5. So he's 34 heading into the season.
I mean, he tore his Achilles, 4 years ago?
Dude, he's gotten hurt a lot over his career.
One of the few players that have come back and been productive off of major injuries. So
yeah, I mean, he obviously had that one giant season with Peyton. He finished number 7, and then ever since then, he's kind of been like somewhere between 18 and like 40. So I mean, he's a fine player to have on your bench and start him when you need to. Next guy on the list, Colin Johnson. This is actually one of my favorite sleepers. I loved him coming into the draft last year. Did not love his landing spot and situation, so I didn't really have a chance for him. But he's tall. He's kind of honestly like a baby Mike Evans. He actually reminds me a lot of Alan Lazard, where he's kind of just this big body that can move decently well. The only downside is they added a similar guy in Marvin Jones. So that kind of takes away his upside, if you will. He's already playing behind Chenault and DJ Baby Chark. So I wonder how many targets he's really going to get. He might just be kind of a red zone guy. But the only thing I will say about Johnson that looks really good is the fact that team literally has no tight end right now. And he is kind of like the de facto red zone tight end, just given his size. So there's a pretty decent chance where he ends up having those kind of, 2 catches for 10 yards and a touchdown, or like those kind of like 30 yards and a touchdown game where you can actually play him. So I'm a fan. And then here we have a comment from our good friend watching live, James Seafield. He says, Colin Johnson's going to be a wide receiver 3 and book it. That's what he tells us live on the podcast.
Too bad he can't play running back.
It's 6'6", 220-pound running back. That'd be fun to watch.
I think it's Cordell Patterson, right?
Patterson was 6'4" as a running back. Yeah, he was 6'4", 210 or something like that. It was ridiculous. Dude, fuck Cordell Patterson. He sucks. Anywho, moving on. Cam Sims. Not a ton of value there for Cam. Cam Sims got a little cock blocked with the Curtis Samuel signing.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be McLaurin, Samuel, and I'm still thinking they're gonna draft another guy. Yeah. They also have Antonio Gandy Golden, the second version of the law firm, if you will. And he's probably going to be in the mix. He was hurt all last year. So, I mean, Sims did show out when he had his chances. He had a couple of games that were pretty nice, but I don't know if he's might just be a jag, if you will. Might not really be much of a player. So I won't talk too much more about him. And then Jacoby Myers, I mean, a sensation. Dude, that guy, remember when he was like the shit one off season? Do you remember that?
It was 2 years ago, wasn't it?
I think it was the year before Brady's last year, maybe. but he was like it was oh god, there was one every year with the Patriots. These guys, they're just like, oh, this is the fucking guy. Remember Ken Brell Tompkins, Sean? Like it was that guy, and then it was Jacoby, and then there was another guy like wedged in between there. I can't remember.
It's like
but like
small white guy, right? The people got all hyped for it.
Last season was like Gunnar Olszewski or something like that. Everybody's like, oh shit, look at this guy.
He was a return man all last year, I think.
Yeah, he's one of the best special teamers in the league, actually. Yeah. Like he's a gunner and the shit too. Anywho, but yeah, Jacoby Myers. I mean, like he's probably gonna start now that Edelman's gone. I mean, I can't imagine they don't add somebody in the draft, but
yeah, I mean, they're trying to trade N'Keal Harry. So
I mean, yeah, trade Harry. They signed who else? They signed Kendrick Bourne, which is a classic Raiders or not Raiders signing, a Patriots signing. And then Nelson Aguilar, another classic Patriots signing. So, I mean, he'll probably at least get some touches. But hold on, another comment from our great friend James Seafew. Danny Etling. Who the fuck is Danny Etling?
Who the fuck is this guy?
Bro, I don't even remember Danny Etling. Who the fuck is that guy? Dude, that's like almost as bad as the Jason Huntley for Alex's team. Dude, Jason Huntley, I could not even tell you a single thing about that man. I don't know anything about him. Couldn't tell you. And I pride myself in knowing all the shitheads in this league. All right, so we went through the whole receiver list. I think this is a pretty damn good group. I'm going to give it a B+ because I don't know if there's that one super elite guy. Like Evans is really good. I don't know if he's kind of in that elite level, so maybe that would be the only ding, but I could really see CD getting there one day. So that's kind of nice.
Good. It's a nice balance. Like you got Mike Evans and Tyler Lockett, who are they can be very boom or bust. And you get like Lamb, Cooks, Boyd, who are all just like steady.
Yeah. Now that you say that, this is kind of one of the most balanced teams, like upside, youth, proven guys. Like this might be one of the most like balanced wide receiver cores in all the league, honestly. I'm interested. I'm intrigued. This is going to be the glue that holds this team together because running backs, I mean, like we talked about earlier, we just really don't know how it's going to end up behind McCaffrey. So this is the glue of this team for sure. And then of course Herbert looking good as part of that sandwich as well. So we'll move on here to the tight ends. I like this. I mean, in our league where some people literally have nothing at tight end, some people have like the elite guys. This is a nice, just smack dab in the middle.
The best you can do when you don't have like one of the elite guys.
100%. Could not agree more. Yeah, this is the most like ideal situation if you don't have one of the big 3 or 4. Like this is it. Fant, ton of upside. I mean, I remember listening to a podcast recently where they were talking. It was an NFL. I can't remember what player, a defensive player, talking about when they played the Broncos this past year. They were so worried about stopping Fant. Like teams really respect Fant. I think I've always kind of underrated him because he came out in the same draft as Hawkinson, and I really liked Hawkinson more because of the blocking aspect. But Fant's a damn good player, so he has just as much upside as really anybody at the tight end position in Dynasty nowadays. And then another guy that had a huge uptick this offseason with the loss of Kyle Rudolph is Irv Smith.
Fan here.
Yeah, I mean, I've always liked his talent, and he can block, which is huge. So there's a ton of upside in those first 2 guys. Like for sure, you love to have that kind of upside, and they're both in starting positions for their actual NFL team. So you don't have to like wait for these guys. They're going to be able to be used like immediately.
Young receiving tight ends that both have opportunity. Good place to be.
Opportunity and upside is a great combination, and youth, of course. So all 3 of those for those guys. And then Hooper.
Hooper.
I mean, I've never liked Austin Hooper, but I do like the fact that he's the starter, and I like the fact that he seems to consistently get touches when he's on the field. They're never very valuable touches, but he does touch the ball. So that's kind of nice. I just don't think he's ever going to reach anything close to what his contract was, because it seems there's a great Walter Football article on teams overpaying the shit out of tight ends for just no reason whatsoever. Like they never, ever, ever live up to the hype. I think there's literally been 2 signings in the last like 10 years that have really returned their value at tight end. The rest of them, they always get re-signed. If like you're good, you're getting re-signed by your own team. So the ones that change teams, they never seem to work out. Yeah, Hooper finished 22 last year in standard leagues. He played 13 games. And then Atlanta, the previous 2 years, he finished 7th and 7th. So it was a kind of a down tick for him. But he also had 20 to 30 less targets, it looks like. So, and his depth of target was way shorter. So he's kind of just like a safety valve at this point in his career. And I mean, he's still young. He's 26. So, I mean, there's still time, I guess. But yeah, I mean, with those other two guys, you really don't need them anyway. So
yeah,
looks good.
I mean, maybe B plus.
I'm gonna give it B plus. Yeah, that's what I was looking at because I mean, none of the guys are elite yet. I think to get an A at any position group, you got to have like one elite guy. So I think both Irv Smith and Fant are great upsides. Fant is kind of on that teetering line of like he could be a great dynasty player.
If he just busted out and finished top 5 this year at the tight end position, like I wouldn't be shocked.
Not at all. Not at all.
So
I mean, I feel like your top 3, you kind of know what they are, but like I could see him and Hawkinson having similar years for sure. Like I don't think that's far off. So, so that's the tight end group, and then we got another little graphic here for draft capital for James. So obviously he traded his first round pick in quite a large trade last year. We can maybe talk about that for a little bit, Sean. That big old trade for the Lambs. Literally the face and mascot, face of the franchise. Let's see if I can pull up that trade real quick because I want to kind of go back to that because that was a good time. I think you just sent me a picture of it too.
I think it's only like half, all right?
Yeah, maybe James can confirm in the comments if he's watching because it looks like the transaction history did you a little bit dirty. It looks like they left off.
Like you got dumpstered.
Yeah, it basically looks like you left off CeeDee Lamb as part of the trade. So it said that Justin received Matt Ryan, Jack Doyle, Chris Carson, Marquise Brown, James's 2021 first round pick, which turned out to be 1.3, and then his 2021 third round pick, which is 3.3. So all that for Rex Burkhead in a 4th. So I feel like that's totally fucked up. And that one should definitely include the 1.3, or I think it was 1.3 last year where he took CD. So, I mean, in reality, the trade to me, I don't really value Doyle. And the third round pick's a third round pick. So really the trade is Matt Ryan, Chris Carson, a 1st, and Marquise Brown for CD. Seems like a lot. Yeah, it seems like a lot. I mean, Carson, I mean, he's an RB2. He's fine. I mean, I'm not a big Marquise Brown believer, but he was still young. And I mean, that's what you got to give up to get an elite guy like an elite prospect, I should say, in CeeDee Lamb. So
it's all variable. I mean, McCaffrey plays that whole year and James makes the
he's really hunting that Rex Burkhead.
If McCaffrey plays the whole year and he finishes like 5th, 6th, then that draft pick looks a little better this year, right? So it's all you can't predict injury, so you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah, and there's no way James went into that thinking that he would have 1.3 either this year. So I mean, he probably thought he'd be like 1.6 or 7 probably. So that kind of hurts a little bit, but
I don't think you can move away from running back capital to be in the same position the next year to not have that pick to take another running back. That's a rough go.
Yeah, that's gonna be a cycle for a long time. Yeah, so I mean, like, there's picks here. 2.3 that's actually a good spot. A lot of guys always fall. It seems like last year you had second round picks, Brandon Ayuk. You had Jefferson. I mean, like high second round picks are fucking Justin Jefferson. I feel like those high first round picks, actually the back end of the one, usually 1.10 produces some guys too. Over the years, there's like Eddie Lacy and then Derrick Henry and then Nick Chubb. Like guys just seem to fall every year. So 2.3 could yield a startable player for sure. And then he's got a couple of late round stragglers there, so we'll see who he pulls. But yeah, he's got draft capital, so there's stuff there. So yeah, what do you think he finishes this year as a record here? Like, where's he going to finish?
7 to 8.
Yeah, I mean,
The running backs are just going to be rough all year for him.
I think he'll have like really solid weeks, assuming that everybody stays healthy. But I wonder if it's going to be enough. I just don't see it being enough being a playoff team right now. Maybe the only chance that this becomes a playoff team is
a McCaffrey carry.
I mean, if you get a McCaffrey carry, but like let's say you get an Aaron Jones injury, and then AJ Dillon turns out to be a good running back, and then like Noah Fant takes that next step, like then that's a good team.
You find a diamond at 2.3.
Yeah,
things work out. Oh yeah.
I mean, you could get a running back at 2.3 potentially. This year I feel like the first round's gonna be very dominated by wide receivers outside of the top like couple of guys. Yeah. There's a pretty big drop off, but one of those later round running backs always seem to hit every year. So I mean, you could get one of those. There's options.
We both know this league is so random. I mean, my team was not that good. I made it to the finals last year, so
dude, it's all about getting hot at the right time, staying healthy, and having depth for the most part. Like that's kind of the big three. Like, if you can get all the three of those to work at the same time, you're probably going to be okay. So, yeah, I mean, I put them at like kind of that 6th, 7th window. If all goes right, maybe 6. We'll see, but I kind of like that.
That being said, James, you're watching. It's time to blow it up. I know Alex is in this league, but it's time. Sell high.
Well, speaking, this is a great segue. Tibbs is having a fire sale.
Sure is.
I mean, we didn't even talk about that. Tibbs is having a fire sale. He's reached out to me. I'm sure he's reached out to basically everybody in the league at this point. But I mean, I'm proud of the kid because the kid needed to realize that that team has the right guys, but there's also just not anything else outside of those top guys.
Those phones are going to be hot draft day. Let me tell you.
Dude, I'm so excited for the draft. I think this year is going to be fucking wild because not only do people, he has quality players, but there's so many teams with multiple picks up high that like that's where the fun's going to be. Like, does somebody trade 2 of their first round picks to get one of those proven guys? Like, what if Justin trades like 1.2 and 1.3 for like, I don't know, like Devontae Adams and somebody else? Like, anything's possible. Like there's so many options. So I'm really excited for this year's rookie draft because I think there's going to be like you said, the phones are going to be buzzing and ringing off the hook. So I'm excited. Who knows? Maybe I'll get involved. You never know. Anything could happen.
Never know.
So that's another good segue to the rookie draft. So I teased it earlier. We got a mock rookie draft for you guys. I'm going to pull up this fancy PowerPoint presentation. So once again, this is a mock draft that was created basically by one of my friends from the Senior Bowl days. Reconnected with him on Twitter, and I was like, hey, if you could just fill out the top 10 picks just based on what you see from these team needs, kind of a deal, that'd be pretty cool. So he did it, and I'm not going to talk about too much on what I think of that player. This is more kind of just like seeing what it could look like as from a team needs perspective. So let's get this going. Let's see who he picked for number 1. Our big Alex Morales. Is it going to be a bust? 75% says yes. Probably not.
Survey says
Jamar Chase is a bust. Sorry, Jamar. I don't. This is an interesting one because Alex is all about doing shit his own way. We all know that. And maybe he doesn't like Najee Harris. Maybe he doesn't want a running back because he thinks the receivers have more long-term value. And my argument is like, let's say Jamar Chase goes to the Bengals and he already has T. Higgins. Like, I don't know if I take Jamar Chase in that scenario.
It's all going to be about landing spot at the end. But we're just going off of raw talent and everything like that. So
I mean, is he the number 1 player in the draft? Like for dynasty leagues?
Not with our format. It's not. We have no half point or full PPR. So I would go with the running back at 1-1.
Yeah, I mean, especially like when there's 3 really good running backs, I think this year too. And of course the running backs are all going to be landing spot dependent. I mean, look at CEH last year, popping all the way up after he got picked by the Chiefs. I mean, all those running backs might shuffle around, but I mean, I think Alex's team has receivers. He literally just doesn't have running backs. Like they don't exist. So if he wants to even remotely contend this year, or I mean, get some quality top end running back talent, this is his shot. So who knows? But it's an interesting selection at 1-1. That's gonna probably create a run on running backs. I'm thinking next. So let's see what the next pick is. And it is true. Najee Harris goes to the Hurricanes. Once again, Hurricanes are sitting pretty this draft. 1, 2, and 1, 3. I mean, he could go so many different directions. He could literally just take BPA and be totally fine, and get 2 really quality young players. I mean, you add Najee Harris with Ezekiel Elliott, with Josh Jacobs. That's looking pretty damn good. Big fan. So the only other option I would consider here is maybe one of the other running backs. I don't think any of the other receivers are kind of worth this pick. Do you kind of agree with that?
Yeah, this would be the correct pick if running back doesn't go first. I'm down. I'm here for it.
So his next pick, he goes back to back. He goes Travis Etienne to pair up with Najee Harris in the first, and then has Josh Jacobs and Ezekiel Elliott too. I mean, and if you look at Justin's roster, it makes sense because his receiving room is so stacked. So it's like, this is fine.
Yeah, who takes top end running backs back to back?
Has that ever happened?
Never happened.
I wonder, has it really? I mean, if you're watching live, has that ever happened? I mean, maybe it's just you, but like, you traded for that pick like during the draft. Like, Justin ended up with this. Like, I mean, he traded for this pick too, but like, he didn't think it was going to be 1.3. This is just, yeah. I mean, this is falling right in his lap. So this is pretty sweet. Actually, I got to take off James's draft capital banner here so we can see better. There we go. So yeah, ETN goes 3. So now this little run of running backs has started, and let's see who's next.
Dustin at 1-4.
No, it's Vince now. Remember the big trade, which we actually have not talked about that trade either.
You're right.
That was quite a trade too. So 1-4, the Swallows take Javonte Williams, the running back out of North Carolina. That's a team that needs a running back though. So I think this was Vince's plan. I think Vince knew that he was going to get one of the top 4 players, whether it be Chase, Williams, Harris, and Etienne. So this works out pretty damn good. He pretty much guarantees himself an RB2 at least to start the season, and kind of fills that hole that he really had at running back outside of Cam Akers. So I like that move. For the Swallows, he gives up a pick next year in the first round, though. So keep that in mind moving forward. He does not have a first next year, I believe, now. And there's some other stuff in that trade, too.
Got to make it count.
But the Elk decided to trade out of this spot, which is an interesting move because I thought he might stay here and do kind of what Vince is doing and just take the top guy because there's tons of talent here. But this is kind of where I believe the running back
dries up a little bit.
Yeah, the pool is kind of done after this. So that's why it made a lot of sense for Vince to just go ahead and get this guy and not have to wait till 6, which is his original pick. And I think he still has that. But now this is kind of it. So if you need a running back from here on out, it's going to be slim pickings. So let's see what happens next. And it's the silly nannies taking a tight end in the first round again. Oh my sweet Jesus. So he's got to understand here that Alex has taken tight ends historically in the first round, but he's also put Mark Andrews on the trading block. That was a move that was made earlier in the year. Without Andrews, he's got nothing at tight end. So if that's the case, and he's really
nothing everywhere,
Sean, please, we don't have time for this. I understand what you're saying, but I mean, my only qualm with Kyle Pitts is that tight ends take time to get going. They never really break out the gate, even the top ones. Hawkinson,
wide receiver.
What's that?
Even when you're a 6'6" wide receiver.
I mean, that's the argument. So the argument is like, is he really a tight end? And he can block, but it's just a matter of how they use him. And I'm thinking like if he ends up in a team, on a team like Cincinnati or Atlanta, they might be more willing to use him basically as just a receiver, which is great for fantasy purposes. But maybe if it's another team that kind of uses him more inline, it's going to take a little more time to get going. So I think he's still worth a first round pick, especially because tight ends are so thin. But I mean, he might really be the best player here for Alex's needs, because I mean, Alex, obviously we know he needs a running back more than anything. He needs a quarterback more than anything, but it's probably too high to take Lawrence. So what's the next thing you really take? I mean, it could be a situation too where Kyle Pitts is listed as a wide receiver tight end and as a Bobby Tonyan type, and you might be able to use him as a receiver too. I mean, who knows? So it's an interesting thought to give Alex a tight end, but at the same time, this receiving group, if he's taking Chase 1, he takes Pitts 5, he still has no running backs. And the rebuild continues. Like, it's just not a whole lot changes. I mean, they're good players. They're really, and obviously have great upside, but it's just like, when is this gonna turn? I don't know what the plan here is. So, moving on, we're gonna go to the next team here. It's the Swallows' second pick, and he gets a really nice value here. Devontae Smith won a damn Heisman. I mean, he's known as the Slim Reaper. I'm a fan because skinny guys unite here. So, I mean, it's hard to argue. What? What'd you say?
I said, fuck y'all.
Fuck all y'all. Fuck them kids. But yeah, Devontae Smith, pair him up with Javonte Williams in the draft at 1.4 and 1.6. That's looking nice. That's looking real nice. You get two borderline elite talents there, and from a dynasty perspective, can't really argue that. Moving on to Dustin's first pick now, because I believe he did have back-to-backs there. 1.7 is the Jalen Waddle selection. And, I mean, that seems fine to me. I mean, he's probably a first-round pick in our league. I mean, Waddle's I feel like he's more of a landing spot dependent guy. I'd like to see where he lands before I invest a high pick in him. But yeah, he's going to be good. I mean, there's nothing to argue there. And Dustin could go any way in the draft.
Yeah, he's got options. So
he doesn't have quite as big of needs as some other leagues or some other teams in this league have, like James, like Vince at running back, Alex at running back. There's a little bit more room for flexibility here. So, and Dustin also picked up a first round pick in next year's draft too. So he doesn't have to feel forced to do anything this season. The lampposts, who have been the cream of the crop, if you will, drafting the last couple of years, get Rashad Bateman at 1.8.
The Minnesota man.
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, it really depends. I think this is one of the most. Sorry.
I mean, I'm knowing Dan, it'll just be best player available. So I think that's correct.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's probably, right in that. What was it? Chase, Smith, Waddle, Bateman. Yeah, I mean, he's like right there, like with that BPA line of thought. Bateman's a good player too, so the lampposts just keep reaping benefits here in this draft, just taking wherever the value falls, and that they can literally take anybody with their team. I mean, he could take whatever player falls to him at 1.8. And for the record, Dan does not seem very willing to trade.
He got Jefferson in the second round. He needs to not be greedy anymore.
Yeah. What a dick. He doesn't need this shit. Let some of the good guys, fall to us.
We know you watch us now, Dan.
He's paying attention after we shit on him for putting 9 messages out in 3 years on Sleeper. He's I've seen him poking around nowadays. So I think he's trying to get more involved. So I love that. So 1.9, the Silly Nanny's last first round pick, taking Rondale Moore. And I gotta say that one fits. That one just fits. Because Alex has always loved the Mecole Hardmans of the world. But these small little slot speedy receivers, the Henry Ruggs for Ruggs, of course, 2021.
Ruggs and Moore can run him all the way to the first overall pick next year again.
Let's look at this draft from a bird's eye view here. You got Jamar Chase at 1. You got Kyle Pitts at 5, and then Rondale Moore at 9. I think they're 3 really solid players. Once again, where's the running back? I just don't even know how you can contend with his running backs. He's going to be starting LaMichael Pirine and shit. It's going to be another fucking top 3 pick again next year. But maybe this is the plan. Man, I don't know. We'll have to see. But I'm not saying the value for Rondale Moore is that bad. At 1.9 makes some sense. I mean,
yeah.
And then with the last pick, the Kentucky Elk taking Kenny Gainwell from Memphis, the running back.
Okay.
I mean, I feel like after that 3-headed group of running backs, Williams, Najee Harris, and ETN, it seems like nobody really has a consensus fourth running back. Like they're kind of all over the place. So I've seen all different kinds of number 4 running backs on people's boards. So like if you like Gainwell the best, I'm not going to shit on this pick too much. It's kind of a hodgepodge at running back. I feel like a lot of those hodgepodge guys are going to go in the second round of the draft this year. And that's those are all going to be landing spots. Like Gainwell, what if Gainwell goes to a great situation? Like he could pop up at least 3 to 4 more spots in the first round here. But the same could go for any of those other hodgepodge running backs. Like if, let me just throw it. Actually, how about Williams, like Michael Carter from North Carolina? Like he ends up in a great situation. He might pop up into the first round. Like things could happen on draft night. So that'll be fun to watch for people that are watching the draft. But definitely don't hate this pick for the Elk here, because they can kind of go anyway, like we talked about. So the Elk end up picking up Gainwell and Jalen Waddle in the first round. So that looks pretty good.
I mean, it behooves him to get players that are going to help him the most right now, and not draft like anybody that's going to be like a long-term project. Because he already traded away his first-round pick next year. There's no reason he needs to not go all the way in.
I think he gained a first this year. I think he got out of that.
Vince sorry, trade. I had that backwards. Yeah, Vince traded away his first-round pick.
Yeah, Vince is more of the all-in
than
Dustin is. The thing is, Dustin has a good roster now. Like I think Dustin's it's not like an elite roster, but it's good enough to contend. And the fact that he's basically picking up picks and assets along the way, and he still has 2 first-round picks this year. I mean, Dustin's playing this very interestingly. I'm quietly impressed with Dustin's workability lately. He's been making more trades than ever, it seems like.
Still as active,
He's always active.
Send everybody those third-round pick trades.
Oh, dude. Honestly, he might be the most active trader in the league. I mean,
he's up there. Yeah. Are you surprised that he didn't put a quarterback in round 1?
So my first thought was at this pick right here, 1.9. I thought about putting Lawrence here, but then I realized that Alex has 2.1. And I was like, maybe, and that's probably also what my buddy was doing, was thinking like, okay, well, he has 2.1, then he'll probably just wait because Dustin doesn't need a quarterback at all. Dustin has Dak Prescott and Kyler. So it's pretty unlikely he takes him at 110 here. So you might as well just wait till 2-1 to pick him. But like realistically, could you see Lawrence on the first round of this draft?
I mean, we don't usually go quarterback in the first round, but I mean,
it's happened, but it's just not that often. I mean, I think Jameis went in the first round one year, but I think that was different because he's a hometown guy. But I don't know. I feel like he's probably going to end up being a high second. That's just kind of my thought. And Burrow went in the high second last year, so I think Lawrence is a better overall prospect than Burrow was coming out, but at the same time, I think people are realizing the value of quarterbacks in our league more now than ever, like as far as they're not as valuable. So yeah, I think 2-1, somewhere between 2-1 and 2-5, he's probably going to come off the board. That's kind of what I'm thinking. So we'll see. So that's the rookie mock draft. So what I'm planning on doing is at the end of our rookie draft, once we get that all finished, after the draft, I'll do a full draft review with what I think about every player. Maybe we'll have a special guest come on the podcast to join me. I might be able to pull somebody to do somebody that actually does this for a living, to see if I can bounce some ideas off them, to see if we can give you guys some great off-season content, because it's just after the draft, it's going to get real fucking boring. So I hope that draft week is as exciting as I think it's going to be with trades and everybody enjoying themselves. But we might do another one of these mock drafts too if there's any more trades. So we'll see. But yeah, thanks again, Sean, for joining me as my trusty co-host here. This is a quality podcast here, and then we got one more team review to go, and that's going to be Dan's team, and then there's us two. So like I'm thinking I'm just not going to do my team. Like it's just not even. I don't want to talk about my team. I feel like it's stupid. So, I mean, we could talk about your team if you want, but I'm just kind of leaving it open until whatever you want to do.
Feel free to bring somebody in. I don't want to talk about my own team either.
That's what I'm saying. Like I'd have to bring in a guest or something, but it just depends. I just feel like it's stupid.
I have no idea how to run a podcast, so I can't really make one for your team. So if anybody else wants to try and jump in, feel free.
Yeah, I can just sit. I can actually I can do one of these where I take myself off the screen.
You're just the emperor in the background.
And then I show back up when I want to. I'll be like, and somebody says something stupid. Hey, you're fucking wrong.
That's pretty good content, actually.
I mean, that'd be great if that's what actually kind of what I'm thinking about doing. So I'll actually tease my idea right now for the actual rookie draft. So my idea is that we do a live stream like this for the rookie draft. Mm-hmm. And then this room has the ability to add up to 10 guests, which is literally our whole league. So what I can do is I can basically be an MC, and then I can bring people in as I choose to chime in on specific topics or like things that happen during the draft. And it's basically like I can add people in and out when I want. So that, and then not only that, then we can have this documented for years to come. So like when we shit on a pick or have a reaction, that way we can laugh about it 10 years down the line when my kid's running the team or something. My kid's not going to be running my team as an 11-year-old or whatever. That's not going to happen. So not even a chance.
You're skipping a lot of steps there, but.
Well, one of the steps is getting a kid, acquiring a child. Once you acquire the child, then it takes 14 years to infiltrate their mind with my Dynasty knowledge. And then maybe in high school, I can consider thinking about that. So it's going to be a minute. Maybe we're talking maybe at least 2 decades here. So I feel like your kid's going to be the first one on the block, probably. I feel like, well, Mike Sastre. What about Landon Sastre? What if he infiltrates the league somehow? It's possible.
Just imagine like any one of our kids just sitting at the table in the corner of the cafeteria arguing about high card and gambling.
As soon as Landon is of driving age, he is definitely going to get replaced or replace Mike in the regular league for sure. No question. I can't wait. All right. So that's going to be it for this podcast. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching along.
Bye.
Goodbye.